Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. The first thing someone asks you is, "So, what do you do?" Most of us instinctively respond with our job title or profession. But today I want to challenge you to resist that urge. Why? Because telling people what you do right away can limit your opportunities, weaken your influence, and sometimes even put you at a disadvantage. First, when you define yourself by your job, you allow others to put you in a box. They form assumptions, right or wrong, about your income, intelligence, or status. You might impress some, but you may also unintentionally create barriers. Second, revealing your profession too soon can make conversations transactional. People start seeing you for what you can do for them rather than who you truly are. Instead of genuine relationships, you end up with shallow connections based on what you offer. Third, mystery creates curiosity. When people don't immediately know what you do, they focus on who you are, your values, your interests, and your personality. This opens the door for deeper and more meaningful interactions. Think about the most intriguing people you've met. Chances are they didn't reveal everything about themselves right away. They let their character and presence speak first, keeping you engaged and interested. So, what should you do instead? Focus on sharing your passions, not just your profession. Talk about what excites you, not just what pays your bills. Ask more questions than you answer, because people remember how you make them feel, not just what you say. By withholding your job title and instead allowing people to get to know you for who you are rather than what you do, you build stronger, more authentic relationships. So the next time someone asks, "What do you do?" pause, smile, and instead of giving them your job title, give them something much more valuable, a reason to remember you. Many people make the mistake of defining themselves entirely by their job, as if their profession alone determines their worth and identity. But in reality, you are so much more than just your job title. When you introduce yourself as a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or any other profession, you immediately limit how others perceive you. They might assume certain things about your personality, lifestyle, and even your intelligence based on stereotypes associated with that profession. But what if your work is only a small fraction of who you really are? Think about it. Your dreams, passions, experiences, and personal values are far more significant than what you do from 9 to 5. By defining yourself solely through your job, you risk neglecting the deeper, more meaningful aspects of your identity. You are not just an accountant, a teacher, or an entrepreneur. You are also a friend, a thinker, a traveler, a storyteller, or a person with unique hobbies and interests that truly define you. When you allow your job to be the primary label others use to understand you, you might miss out on forming deeper connections based on shared interests rather than just professional alignment. Another danger of being defined by your job is that careers are not permanent. People switch professions, industries change, and unexpected life events can alter your career path. If your entire identity is wrapped around what you do for a living, what happens if you lose your job or decide to make a career change? Suddenly you might feel lost, as if your identity has been stripped away. But if you define yourself by your values, passions, and character rather than your job title, then no matter what changes in your professional life, your sense of self remains intact. Furthermore, society often places different values on certain jobs, leading to unnecessary status hierarchies. If someone hears that you work in a prestigious field, they may treat you with admiration, while another person with a less impressive job might be overlooked. But these judgments are often superficial and do not reflect a person's true worth or contributions to society. By stepping away from the mindset of defining yourself by your profession, you encourage others to see beyond societal labels and engage with you as a complete person rather than just a worker. Ultimately, people are far more than what they do for a living. You have stories, experiences, emotions, and beliefs that make you unique. And those qualities should be at the forefront of how you present yourself to the world. Instead of letting your job define you, let your character, passions, and actions speak for who you really are. First impressions are powerful, but they can also be deceiving. When you introduce yourself with your job title, you unintentionally allow others to form immediate assumptions about you. Assumptions that may not reflect who you truly are. People categorize others based on their profession, often relying on stereotypes and preconceived notions. If you say you are a doctor, people might assume you are wealthy and intelligent. If you say you are an artist, they might think you struggle financially but are passionate and creative. These automatic judgments can create barriers that influence how people treat you, sometimes in ways that limit meaningful connection. By leading with your profession, you invite others to view you through a narrow lens, one that may not fully capture your personality, values, or life experiences. This can be particularly frustrating if your career does not fully define you, or if you have interests and passions that extend far beyond your workplace. Instead of getting to know you as a person, others may reduce you to a simple label, making snap decisions about whether or not they find you interesting, useful, or worthy of further conversation. Consider how different interactions might unfold depending on the job title you present. If you introduce yourself as an entrepreneur, some people might instantly see you as ambitious and successful, while others might assume you are struggling to make ends meet. If you say you are a teacher, one person may admire you for shaping young minds, while another may dismiss your profession as ordinary. These impressions may have nothing to do with who you actually are, yet they can shape the way people engage with you, limiting the depth of your conversations and relationships. Beyond the assumptions of others, defining yourself by your job can also lead to self-imposed limitations. If you constantly introduce yourself by your career, you might begin to believe that your professional role is the most important thing about you. This can prevent you from exploring other aspects of your identity and can make it difficult to separate your personal worth from your career success. You might start feeling pressure to maintain a certain image, fearing that if your job changes, your perceived value will change along with it. Furthermore, first impressions based on profession can lead to missed opportunities for genuine connection. When someone meets you without immediately knowing what you do, they are more likely to ask deeper questions about your interests, values, and personal journey. This can lead to more meaningful conversations and relationships that are built on authenticity rather than surface-level judgments. Instead of being placed in a box, you give people a chance to discover the real you without the weight of preconceived notions shaping their perception. When conversations revolve around what you do for a living, they often become transactional rather than meaningful. Instead of engaging in a discussion based on mutual interests, shared experiences, or genuine curiosity, the conversation can quickly shift into an assessment of what value you bring to the table. People start evaluating you in terms of how your profession might benefit them, whether directly or indirectly. Are you someone who can provide a useful service? Do you have connections they can leverage? Can you offer something they need? When this happens, interactions lose their authenticity and become driven by personal gain rather than real human connection. This transactional approach is especially common in networking environments, where people often ask, "What do you do?" as a way to gauge whether or not you are worth their time. If your profession aligns with their interests or needs, they may show enthusiasm and engagement. But if not, they might disengage, engage or move on to the next person. This can be disheartening, especially if you have much more to offer than just your job title. It also reinforces a culture where people are valued primarily for their economic utility rather than their character, ideas, or personal quality. Another issue with transactional conversations is that they often feel shallow and repetitive. If every introduction follows the same pattern, stating your profession, answering a few predictable follow-up questions, and then moving on, it becomes difficult to form lasting impressions or build meaningful relationships. People end up categorizing each other based on professional labels rather than truly getting to know one another. Over time, this can make social interactions feel mechanical and uninspired, stripping away the richness of human connection. Furthermore, when people focus too much on each other's professional roles, they may overlook commonalities that could have led to stronger relationships. Two individuals might share a passion for music, travel, or philosophy, but if the conversation never moves beyond careers, they might never discover these shared interests. Some of the most fulfilling relationships, whether personal or professional, are built on deeper connections that go beyond job titles. By reducing interactions to career-based exchanges, people miss out on the opportunity to develop friendships, mentorships, or collaborations that are rooted in mutual respect and genuine affinity. This issue also extends to social settings outside of work. When people define themselves primarily by their careers, their interactions may begin to feel more like business meetings than natural conversations. They might unconsciously steer discussions toward professional achievements, industry trends, or workplace challenges, leaving little room for personal storytelling, humor, or creative expression. Over time, this can lead to an imbalance where people feel pressure to always present themselves in a professional light rather than simply being themselves. Ultimately, conversations should be about more than just what someone does for a living. They should be an opportunity to explore ideas, share experiences, and build relationships that are meaningful and fulfilling. When people stop viewing interactions as mere transactions and start engaging with others on a deeper level, they create space for more authentic and enriching connections. Mystery is a powerful tool in human interaction. When people don't immediately know what you do for a living, their curiosity is sparked and they become more interested in who you are as a person. The moment you reveal your job title, many individuals unconsciously categorize you, placing you into a predefined box based on their assumptions about your profession. But when you hold back that information, you give them a reason to stay engaged, to ask more questions, and to pay closer attention to your personality, mannerisms, and the way you carry yourself. This creates a far more dynamic and memorable interaction. Consider how storytelling works. The most compelling stories don't give away all the details up front. They unfold gradually, revealing important information at just the right moments. The same principle applies to personal interactions. If someone asks what you do and you immediately respond with your job title, the conversation often takes a predictable path. But if you answer in a more intriguing way, perhaps by sharing a passion, a unique project, or an interesting experience, you create a sense of intrigue. People naturally want to learn more, which keeps the dialogue engaging and alive. Mystery also levels the playing field. In many social and professional situations, people are quick to assess others based on their careers. If you have a prestigious job, you might receive instant admiration. If your job is not traditionally respected or well known, you might be unfairly dismissed. By not revealing what you do right away, you prevent people from making these snap judgments. Instead, they are forced to get to know you as an individual, appreciating your thoughts, ideas, and personality before they attach any assumptions to your name. This allows you to build connections based on genuine interest rather than professional status. Another advantage of maintaining a sense of mystery is that it encourages deeper and more meaningful conversations. When your job is the first thing you share, people tend to focus on industry questions or career small talk. But when you steer the conversation toward broader topics, your passions, your travels, your unique life experiences, you invite a richer exchange of ideas. This not only makes the interaction more enjoyable, but it also helps forge deeper connections that extend beyond the usual surface level conversations. In many cases, revealing less can actually make you more memorable. When people meet someone who doesn't immediately provide all the expected details about their life, they tend to think about them more afterward. They wonder about their story, what they do, and what makes them interesting. This curiosity leads to stronger impressions, making you stand out in their minds long after the conversation has ended. It's often the people who leave a little bit unsaid who remain the most intriguing and captivating. Moreover, mystery allows you to control the narrative of your interactions. When you introduce yourself with your job title, you let others dictate how they perceive you. But when you reveal aspects of yourself selectively and intentionally, you guide the conversation in a way that highlights the most interesting and meaningful parts of who you are. You are not just another doctor, lawyer, teacher, or engineer. You are someone with stories, passions, and insights that go beyond your profession. People are naturally drawn to those who are not entirely predictable. In a world where most conversations follow the same script, breaking the pattern by withholding immediate details about your career makes you stand out. This approach is especially useful in social and networking settings where first impressions matter. Instead of being remembered as just another person with a particular job, you are remembered as someone who is intriguing, engaging, and worth getting to know. People often introduce themselves by their job titles because it's the easiest way to provide a quick summary of who they are. However, this habit can be misleading, as a job title is only a small fraction of a person's true identity. What truly defines you is not what you do for a living, but who you are at your core. Your beliefs, your values, your character, and the experiences that have shaped you. When you allow your profession to be the first thing people associate with you, you unintentionally overshadow the deeper, more meaningful aspects of your identity. Focusing on who you are instead of what you do creates more authentic interactions. When people get to know you based on your personality, interests, and values, rather than your professional status, their connection to you is more genuine. They are drawn to your energy, your ideas, and your outlook on life, rather than just your career achievements. This shift in focus leads to more fulfilling relationships, whether in friendships, romantic partnerships, or professional networking. A person who defines themselves by their values and passions will always be more memorable than someone who merely states their job title. One of the greatest benefits of focusing on who you are is that it allows you to build relationships based on authenticity rather than superficial labels. Many people unknowingly seek validation through their careers, believing that their worth is tied to their job. This can create a fragile sense of self where their confidence rises and falls based on professional successes and failures. But when you define yourself by your values, such as kindness, curiosity, integrity, or creativity, you develop a more stable and grounded sense of identity. No matter how your career evolves, you remain true to yourself, and that consistency makes you stronger in both personal and professional relationships. Another important aspect of focusing on who you are is that it opens the door for more meaningful conversations. When people ask what you do, they are often looking for a simple, predictable answer. But when you steer the conversation toward your passions, personal experiences, or the things that excite you, you create a more engaging and memorable exchange. Instead of discussing industry trends or job responsibilities, you might find yourself talking about a book that changed your perspective, a travel experience that shaped your worldview, or a creative project that fuels your passion. These types of discussions not only make interactions more enjoyable, but they also help you attract like-minded individuals who share your interests and values. Furthermore, leading with who you are rather than what you do allows you to break free from societal expectations. Many people feel pressured to pursue careers that are seen as prestigious or financially rewarding, even if those paths do not align with their true interests. This can lead to dissatisfaction and disconnect between their professional and personal lives. But when you define yourself by your values and personal mission rather than your job, you gain the freedom to pursue paths that truly resonate with you. Whether it's starting a business, traveling the world, volunteering, or engaging in creative endeavors, focusing on who you are encourages you to make choices that align with your deeper sense of purpose. This mindset shift also helps you navigate career transitions with greater ease. In today's world, people change jobs, switch industries, and reinvent themselves more than ever before. If your identity is solely tied to your profession, any career change can feel like an identity crisis. But if you see yourself as more than just your job, transitions become less daunting. You recognize that your skills, passions, and values remain intact, even if your job title changes. This perspective allows you to adapt and embrace new opportunities without fear of losing your sense of self. Another powerful advantage of focusing on who you are is that it makes you more relatable. When people introduce themselves with their profession, there can sometimes be an unintended sense of hierarchy. Certain jobs are viewed as more prestigious than others, leading to unspoken judgments. But when you introduce yourself based on your character and passions, you create a level playing field where conversations are based on shared human experiences rather than professional status. This approach makes it easier to connect with a wide range of people, fostering deeper and more meaningful relationships. Moreover, emphasizing who you are over what you do allows you to leave a more lasting impact on others. People rarely remember job titles after meeting someone, but they do remember how that person made them feel. If you lead with warmth, humor, wisdom, or passion, you leave an impression that lasts far longer than a job description. Your essence becomes the thing people remember and talk about, making you someone they are eager to stay connected with. Ultimately, defining yourself by who you are rather than what you do leads to a richer, more fulfilling life. It shifts the focus from external validation to internal fulfillment, from professional labels to personal growth. It encourages you to embrace all the different facets of your identity, rather than limiting yourself to a single job title. By leading with your values, passions, and unique qualities, you allow people to see the real you, someone worth knowing beyond just a profession. Sharing your passions rather than just your profession makes your interactions more engaging, dynamic, and memorable. When you tell someone what you do for a living, the conversation often follows a predictable pattern. People ask where you work, what your job entails, and how long you've been doing it. While these exchanges are common, they rarely leave a lasting impression. However, when you talk about what excites you, whether it's music, writing, technology, fitness, travel, or any other passion, you create a connection that is more meaningful and authentic. Passions reveal more about who you truly are than a job title ever could. Your enthusiasm, energy, and genuine excitement become evident when you talk about something you love. This kind of passion is contagious, drawing people in and making them want to learn more about you. Even if they don't share your particular interests, they will be drawn to the way you light up when you speak. Passion makes people more interesting, and interesting people are the ones who leave lasting impressions. When you share your passions instead of your profession, you also invite deeper conversations. Talking about work often leads to surface level discussions, tasks, responsibilities, workplace culture. But conversations about passions open doors to more meaningful exchanges. If you love photography, you might share how it allows you to see the world differently. If you're passionate about cooking, you might talk about the cultural and emotional significance of food. These discussions allow others to see into your mind and heart, fostering connections that go beyond professional networking. Furthermore, focusing on your passions helps you avoid being defined by your career. Many people fall into the trap of believing that their job is the most important thing about them. While work is a significant part of life, it does not encompass everything that makes a person unique. If you define yourself solely by your profession, you risk losing your sense of identity if your job changes, becomes unfulfilling, or disappears altogether. However, if you define yourself by your passions, you always have something meaningful to share, regardless of where you are in your professional journey. Another benefit of sharing your passions is that it makes you more relatable. Not everyone may understand the specifics of your job, but most people can relate to the feeling of being deeply excited about something. Whether it's art, sports, nature, or learning new skills, passions create common ground that allows people from different backgrounds to connect. It's much easier to form bonds over shared interests than over job titles, which often create an invisible barrier between people of different professions or industries. Moreover, when you focus on your passions, you present yourself as someone who is driven by curiosity and excitement rather than obligation. Many people view their jobs as something they have to do, but passions are things we choose to pursue because they bring us joy. When others see that you are engaged in something meaningful to you, they become inspired to explore their own interests. You become a source of positive energy, someone who reminds others of the importance of doing things that bring happiness and fulfillment. Sharing your passions also makes you stand out in social and professional settings. In many conversations, people expect the standard "I'm an accountant" or "I work in marketing" response. But when you say "I'm really passionate about filmmaking" or "I love rock climbing," it immediately makes people curious. They want to know more. How did you get into it? What do you love about it? What's the most interesting experience you've had while pursuing it? This curiosity creates a natural flow in the conversation, keeping it engaging and memorable. Additionally, passions often lead to opportunities that a job title alone cannot provide. When you openly discuss what excites you, you attract people who share similar interests or know someone who does. You might meet a fellow traveler who shares your love for adventure, a musician who invites you to collaborate, or a writer who encourages you to publish your work. These connections can lead to unexpected friendships, collaborations, and even career opportunities that you might never have encountered if you had simply stated your job title. Finally, focusing on your passions rather than your profession encourages a lifestyle that prioritizes joy, growth, and creativity. Too often, people become consumed by work and forget to nurture the things that bring them happiness. By making your passions a central part of your identity and conversations, you remind yourself and others that life is about more than just making a living. It's about truly living. Passion fuels creativity, deepens relationships, and adds richness to everyday experiences. It is what makes life interesting and worth sharing with others. Sharing your passions rather than just your profession makes your interactions more engaging, dynamic, and memorable. When you tell someone what you do for a living, the conversation often follows a predictable pattern. People ask where you work, what your job entails, and how long you've been doing it. While these exchanges are common, they rarely leave a lasting impression. However, when you talk about what excites you, whether it's music, writing, technology, fitness, travel, or any other passion, you create a connection that is more meaningful and authentic. Passions reveal more about who you truly are than a job title ever could. Your enthusiasm, energy, and genuine excitement become evident when you talk about something you love. This kind of passion is contagious, drawing people in and making them want to learn more about you. Even if they don't share your particular interest, they will be drawn to the way you light up when you speak. Passion makes people more interesting, and interesting people are the ones who leave lasting impressions. When you share your passions instead of your profession, you also invite deeper conversations. Talking about work often leads to surface level discussions, tasks, responsibilities, workplace culture. But conversations about passions open doors to more meaningful exchanges. If you love photography, you might share how it allows you to see the world differently. If you're passionate about cooking, you might talk about the cultural and emotional significance of food. These discussions allow others to see into your mind and heart, fostering connections that go beyond professional networking. Furthermore, focusing on your passions helps you avoid being defined by your career. Many people fall into the trap of believing that their job is the most important thing about them. While work is a significant part of life, it does not encompass everything that makes a person unique. If you define yourself solely by your profession, you risk losing your sense of identity if your job changes, becomes unfulfilling, or disappears altogether. However, if you define yourself by your passions, you always have something meaningful to share, regardless of where you are in your professional journey. Another benefit of sharing your passions is that it makes you more relatable. Not everyone may understand the specifics of your job, but most people can relate to the feeling of being deeply excited about something. Whether it's art, sports, nature, or learning new skills, passions create common ground that allows people from different backgrounds to connect. It's much easier to form bonds over shared interests than over job titles, which often create an invisible barrier between people of different professions or industries. Moreover, when you focus on your passions, you present yourself as someone who is driven by curiosity and excitement rather than obligation. Many people view their jobs as something they have to do, but passions are things we choose to pursue because they bring us joy. When others see that you are engaged in something meaningful to you, they become inspired to explore their own interests. You become a source of positive energy, someone who reminds others of the importance of doing things that bring happiness and fulfillment. Sharing your passions also makes you stand out in social and professional settings. In many conversations, people expect the standard, "I'm an accountant" or "I work in marketing" response. But when you say, "I'm really passionate about filmmaking" or "I love rock climbing," it immediately makes people curious. They want to know more. How did you get into it? What do you love about it? What's the most interesting experience you've had while pursuing it? This curiosity creates a natural flow in the conversation, keeping it engaging and memorable. Additionally, passions often lead to opportunities that a job title alone cannot provide. When you openly discuss what excites you, you attract people who share similar interests or know someone who does. You might meet a fellow traveler who shares your love for adventure, a musician who invites you to collaborate, or a writer who encourages you to publish your work. These connections can lead to unexpected friendships, collaborations, and even career opportunities that you might never have encountered if you had simply stated your job title. Finally, focusing on your passions rather than your profession encourages a lifestyle that prioritizes joy, growth, and creativity. Too often, people become consumed by work and forget to nurture the things that bring them happiness. By making your passions a central part of your identity and conversations, you remind yourself and others that life is about more than just making a living, it's about truly living. Passion fuels creativity, deepens relationships, and adds richness to everyday experiences. It is what makes life interesting and worth sharing with others. Sharing your passions rather than just your profession makes your interactions more engaging, dynamic, and memorable. When you tell someone what you do for a living, the conversation often follows a predictable pattern. People ask where you work, what your job entails, and how long you've been doing it. While these exchanges are common, they rarely leave a lasting impression. However, when you talk about what excites you, whether it's music, writing, technology, fitness, travel, or any other passion, you create a connection that is more meaningful and authentic. Passions reveal more about who you truly are than a job title ever could. Your enthusiasm, energy, and genuine excitement become evident when you talk about something you love. This kind of passion is contagious, drawing people in and making them want to learn more about you. Even if they don't share your particular interest, they will be drawn to the way you light up when you speak. Passion makes people more interesting, and interesting people are the ones who leave lasting impressions. When you share your passions instead of your profession, you also invite deeper conversations. Talking about work often leads to surface-level discussions, tasks, responsibilities, workplace culture, but conversations about passions open doors to more meaningful exchanges. If you love photography, you might share how it allows you to see the world differently. If you're passionate about cooking, you might talk about the cultural and emotional significance of food. These discussions allow others to see into your mind and heart, fostering connections that go beyond professional networking. Furthermore, focusing on your passions helps you avoid being defined by your career. Many people fall into the trap of believing that their job is the most important thing about them. While work is a significant part of life, it does not encompass everything that makes a person unique. If you define yourself solely by your profession, you risk losing your sense of identity if your job changes, becomes unfulfilling, or disappears altogether. However, if you define yourself by your passions, you always have something meaningful to share regardless of where you are in your professional journey. Another benefit of sharing your passions is that it makes you more relatable. Not everyone may understand the specifics of your job, but most people can relate to the feeling of being deeply excited about something. Whether it's art, sports, nature, or learning new skills, passions create common ground that allows people from different backgrounds to connect. It's much easier to form bonds over shared interests than over job titles, which often create an invisible barrier between people of different professions or industries. Moreover, when you focus on your passions, you present yourself as someone who is driven by curiosity and excitement rather than obligation. Many people view their jobs as something they have to do, but passions are things we choose to pursue because they bring us joy. When others see that you are engaged in something meaningful to you, they become inspired to explore their own interests. You become a source of positive energy, someone who reminds others of the importance of doing things that bring happiness and fulfillment. Sharing your passions also makes you stand out in social and professional settings. In many conversations, people expect the standard, "I'm an accountant," or "I work in marketing" response. But when you say, "I'm really passionate about filmmaking," or "I love rock climbing," it immediately makes people curious. They want to know more. How did you get into it? What do you love about it? What's the most interesting experience you've had while pursuing it? This curiosity creates a natural flow in the conversation, keeping it engaging and memorable. Additionally, passions often lead to opportunities that a job title alone cannot provide. When you openly discuss what excites you, you attract people who share similar interests or know someone who does. You might meet a fellow traveler who shares your love for adventure, a musician who invites you to collaborate, or a writer who encourages you to publish your work. These connections can lead to unexpected friendships, collaborations, and even career opportunities that you might never have encountered if you had simply stated your job title. Finally, focusing on your passions rather than your profession encourages a lifestyle that prioritizes joy, growth, and creativity. Too often, people become consumed by work and forget to nurture the things that bring them happiness. By making your passions a central part of your identity and conversations, you remind yourself and others that life is about more than just making a living. It's about truly living. Passion fuels creativity, deepens relationships, and adds richness to everyday experiences. It is what makes life interesting and worth sharing with others. When you define yourself by your job, you unintentionally allow your worth to be measured by external validation. Your salary, your job title, your achievements, and how others perceive your career. This can be dangerous because it ties your self-esteem to something that is ultimately out of your control. If you lose your job, face a setback, or simply start feeling unfulfilled in your profession, your sense of self can take a hit. But when you define yourself by your personal values, passions, and character, you create a stronger foundation, one that remains intact regardless of your career situation. Many people spend years chasing professional success in the hope that it will bring them a sense of self-worth. They believe that once they reach a certain level of success, get a promotion, make a certain amount of money, or work for a prestigious company, they will finally feel validated. But external achievements are fleeting. The satisfaction from a promotion or a pay raise is temporary, and soon the mind starts searching for the next milestone. This cycle can lead to burnout, anxiety, and the constant feeling that no matter how much you achieve, it is never enough. Relying on external validation also makes you vulnerable to other people's opinions. If your identity is based on what you do, then any criticism or failure in your career can feel like a personal attack. You might hesitate to take risks or try new things because you fear what others will think if you don't succeed. This can limit your growth and prevent you from exploring opportunities that could bring true fulfillment. However, when you define yourself by your values, such as integrity, kindness, creativity, or resilience, you build confidence that is not dependent on external factors. No matter what happens in your career, you still have a strong sense of self-worth. Another problem with seeking validation through your profession is that it can lead to comparing yourself to others. In today's world, social media and networking platforms make it easy to see what others are accomplishing. If you constantly compare your career progress to that of your peers, you may feel inadequate, even if you are doing well. There will always be someone with a higher salary, a fancier job title, or a more impressive LinkedIn profile. But when you focus on your own values and passions rather than external achievements, you free yourself from the toxic habit of comparison. Instead of measuring success by external standards, you define it on your own terms, by how much you've grown, how true you've been to yourself, and how much impact you've had on others. Internal validation is the key to long-term happiness and fulfillment. When you find confidence in who you are rather than what you do, you are less affected by external circumstances. Your self-worth is not tied to your productivity, your job title, or your career success. It comes from within. You begin to focus more on what truly matters to you rather than what society expects of you. This shift in mindset allows you to pursue work that aligns with your true interests and values rather than just chasing what looks good on a resume. Focusing on internal validation also improves mental and emotional well-being. When your self-worth depends on external achievements, any setback, losing a job, failing at a project, or not getting a promotion can feel like a personal failure. This can lead to stress, self-doubt, and even depression. But when you have a strong sense of self that is not tied to your career, you are more resilient in the face of challenges. You see failures as learning experiences rather than reflections of your worth. You understand that setbacks are temporary and do not define you. Another benefit of internal validation is that it allows you to be more present and enjoy life beyond work. Many people become so consumed by their careers that they neglect their personal lives. They work long hours, sacrifice hobbies, and miss important moments with family and friends, all in pursuit of career success. But when you do not define yourself solely by your job, you recognize that life is multidimensional. You allow yourself to invest in relationships, personal growth, and experiences that bring true joy. You find fulfillment in the things that make you happy rather than waiting for professional success to provide that happiness. Moreover, people who seek internal validation tend to be more authentic in their interaction. When you no longer feel the need to impress others with your job title or career achievements, you can be yourself. You engage in conversations without feeling the pressure to prove your worth. You form relationships based on genuine connections rather than professional status. This authenticity attracts people who appreciate you for who you are, not just what you do. By shifting your focus from external to internal validation, you create a more stable, fulfilling, and meaningful life. You stop chasing approval from others and start building confidence from within. You recognize that your value is not determined by your job, but by the impact you have, the way you treat others, and the person you choose to be. When you lead conversations with your job title, you risk allowing people to define you by a single aspect of your life, rather than seeing you as a multi-dimensional person with a range of interests, experiences, and qualities. Human beings are incredibly complex, yet in many social interactions we reduce ourselves to simple labels: lawyer, engineer, teacher, entrepreneur, as if that one word can encapsulate everything about us. While careers are important, they are just one part of a much bigger story. By prioritizing deeper conversations and broader self-expression, you ensure that people understand you for who you truly are, rather than making quick judgments based on your profession. People tend to categorize others as soon as they learn what they do for a living. When someone says they are a doctor, others might immediately assume they are intelligent, disciplined, and wealthy. If someone says they work in the arts, others might assume they are creative but not financially stable. These assumptions, though often subconscious, shape the way people interact with each other. Instead of seeing a person as an individual, they see them through the lens of their profession, making broad generalizations that may or may not be accurate. This can limit the depth of conversations and prevent genuine connections from forming. By choosing not to define yourself by your job, you encourage people to engage with you on a deeper level. Instead of making assumptions, they are more likely to ask meaningful questions about your life, interests, and perspectives. Conversations become richer and more dynamic because they are not confined to professional stereotypes. When you avoid leading with your career, you open the door for discussions about philosophy, personal growth, hobbies, relationships, and unique life experiences. These are the kinds of conversations that leave lasting impressions and build real connections. Another reason why you should not let others define you by your profession is that your career can change, but your essence remains the same. Many people experience job transitions at some point in their lives, whether due to personal choice, economic conditions, or unforeseen circumstances. If your identity is too closely tied to your job, a career shift can feel like losing a part of yourself. However, when you embrace the idea that you are more than your profession, you maintain a stable sense of identity regardless of external changes. You recognize that your true value lies in your character, skills, creativity, and the way you contribute to the world beyond just your job title. Additionally, defining yourself too narrowly by your career can prevent you from exploring other aspects of your personality. When people see you only as an accountant or a software developer, they might not recognize your artistic side, your love for storytelling, or your deep interest in humanitarian work. And if you internalize these labels, you may limit yourself as well. You might convince yourself that because you are in a certain profession, you must always fit that mold, even if you have passions or talents in completely different areas. By stepping away from rigid professional identities, you give yourself the freedom to explore all the different parts of who you are. This also applies to relationships. When people define you by your career, they may develop expectations about how you should behave or what your priorities should be. For example, if someone learns that you are a business executive, they might assume you are always focused on work and uninterested in creative or leisurely pursuits. If they hear you are a teacher, they might expect you to always be nurturing and patient even outside of work. These assumptions can be frustrating because they fail to capture the full scope of who you are as a person. By not leading with your job title, you avoid being placed into a predefined box and allow people to see you in a more authentic way. Furthermore, people who are defined too much by their careers often struggle with work-life balance. When your job becomes your primary identity, it can be difficult to separate yourself from it. You may feel pressure to always be working, proving your worth, or staying ahead in your field. This can lead to burnout and a lack of fulfillment in other areas of life. But when you remind yourself and others that you are more than your job, you create space for relationships, hobbies, self-care, and personal growth. You allow yourself to be present in your life outside of work, rather than feeling like you must always be productive to maintain your sense of worth. Another downside to allowing others to define you by your profession is that it can make social interactions transactional. When people identify you primarily by your career, they may engage with you only when they see a professional benefit. This can be particularly frustrating in networking or social settings where some people assess your worth based on how useful you might be to them professionally. If you remove your job title from the equation, you filter out those who are only interested in you for work reasons and attract people who appreciate you for who you truly are. Ultimately, resisting the urge to be defined by your profession allows you to cultivate a richer, more fulfilling identity. You are not just what you do from 9 to 5. You are your experiences, your passions, your values, and your unique perspective on the world. By embracing this broader sense of self, you encourage others to do the same, leading to more meaningful relationships and a deeper sense of fulfillment in life. When you hold back information about your career, it not only makes you appear more intriguing, but also helps you engage in more authentic interaction. In a world where so much of our self-worth is tied to our professions, the simple act of withholding that detail can create an atmosphere of curiosity. People naturally become interested in who you are beyond the label of your job title. It forces them to ask questions and seek a deeper understanding of who you are as a person. Instead of assuming you fit into a particular category based on your profession, they are more likely to connect with you on a personal level. This curiosity drives more meaningful conversations because it invites people to explore your character, experiences, and interests, which are far more complex and revealing than the duties of a job. By not leading with your job title, you shift the focus away from what you do and place it on who you are. This fosters an environment where people are more interested in learning about your values, your personality, and what truly drives you. Conversations become richer and more genuine, allowing for deeper connections. Instead of feeling as though you are just another person in a specific field, you become an individual with unique qualities and experiences that are far more interesting than a mere job title could convey. This shift allows you to define yourself on your own terms and encourages others to engage with you in a more thoughtful and meaningful way. Another key benefit of withholding your profession at first is that it prevents people from pigeonholing you based on their perceptions of your career. We live in a world where there are a lot of assumptions made about people based on their job titles. If you say you're a lawyer, people might assume you're ambitious and potentially arrogant, while if you say you're a teacher, they might think you're nurturing and idealistic. These assumptions are often inaccurate and limit the potential for deeper connections. By keeping your profession to yourself, you break free from these stereotypes and allow others to get to know the real you. People are more likely to appreciate you for your individuality and complexity when they are not immediately making judgments based on what you do for a living. Furthermore, withholding your job title allows you to take back control of how you are perceived. When you introduce yourself with your job, you are essentially allowing others to define you through the lens of your career. But when you withhold that information, you leave room for them to form their own opinions based on who you are, how you speak, and how you interact with them. This gives you more autonomy in shaping the way others see you. Rather than being limited by a title, people are more likely to form opinions about your personality and character, which allows for more authentic connections. This approach also allows you to be more present in social interactions. When people are focused on your profession, conversations often revolve around work, what you do, how you do it, and whether you're successful. These kinds of conversations can quickly become repetitive and transactional. But when you avoid introducing your job, the conversation takes on a different energy. It moves beyond the typical small talk about careers and turns into a more dynamic exchange of ideas, experiences, and values. This not only makes the interaction more enjoyable, but also helps build stronger connections because it is based on mutual interests rather than just professional achievements. In social settings, people often bond over shared experiences or common interests rather than professional accomplishments. By withholding your job title, you level the playing field. Everyone becomes a person with experiences, perspectives, and personal stories to share rather than being defined by their role in the workplace. This makes interactions feel more egalitarian and less focused on competition or comparison. As a result, people are more likely to connect with you on a human level, leading to richer and more fulfilling social experiences. Additionally, by not immediately revealing your career, you encourage others to share more about themselves. When someone asks, "What do you do?" and the answer is not immediately clear, it often invites them to share more about their own lives, their passions, and their interests. This can lead to a more reciprocal conversation where both parties feel equally valued and heard. Instead of one person talking about their job, both individuals have the opportunity to share aspects of their lives that go beyond their professions, deepening the connection and making the conversation more balanced and interesting. Another benefit of withholding your job title is that it encourages more meaningful networking. In many professional settings, networking often revolves around exchanging job titles, which can sometimes feel superficial or transactional. If your primary interest in meeting someone is based solely on their job or professional influence, the conversation can become one-sided and self-serving. By focusing on who people are rather than what they do, networking becomes less about leveraging contacts for personal gain and more about connecting with others as people. You may discover shared values, passions, or interests that transcend professional roles, leading to more meaningful and mutually beneficial relationships. Finally, withholding your job title allows you to avoid the trap of defining your self-worth through your career. In a society that often measures success by job titles, promotions, and salary, it's easy to fall into the mindset that your value is directly tied to your professional achievements. By not leading with your job title, you make a conscious effort to remind yourself and others that you are more than what you do for a living. This perspective fosters a greater sense of self-worth that comes from within, rather than relying on external factors like career success. It also helps you maintain a healthy work-life balance, as you are less likely to derive your sense of fulfillment solely from your job. Instead, you can draw satisfaction from a wide range of sources, including your relationships, passions, and personal growth. In conclusion, the decision to not define yourself solely by your job title opens the door to more meaningful connections, deeper conversations, and a stronger sense of self. By focusing on who you are rather than what you do, you encourage others to see you as a multifaceted individual, fostering genuine relationships based on mutual understanding and shared value. This approach allows you to break free from societal stereotypes and professional labels, giving you the freedom to shape your identity on your own terms. So next time you find yourself in a conversation, remember that the essence of who you are goes far beyond your career. Embrace the opportunity to share your passions, interests, and personal experiences. The impact you make in the world is not defined by your job, but by the way you live, connect, and contribute to those around you. Let your true self shine and watch how it transforms the conversations you have and the relationships you build.